I interviewed Malik Lee, who was Snoop's
Okay.
bodyguard.
Yes.
Were you around during Snoop's trial?
Well, during the trial.
The murder
Yes,
trial?
that was me and the security that was always with Snoop, was two security that worked for me.
Okay.
But yes, we was around by that time.
Okay. Well, when the actual shooting happened, were you
No.
around? Okay, you came later.
I came later. That's why I came in, because they were, getting sued, because, they were good with having homeboy securities and people like that around. But when you $100 million, $200 million company, and you start seeing the liability that comes along, they still had to pay out $4.5 million to that family, or a crazy amount. I don't want to say the now, because I don't know what it was, but it was a crazy amount. They still had to pay out for the liability part because of Malik not being, certified, and
he wasn't certified
to carry a gun and all that.
Oh, he wasn't.
No.
Oh, okay. He didn't mention that
So
in our interview.
they had so they still had to pay out.
Oh, so that was
type
part
of
of
money.
part of the thing.
And that's what hurt the liability on the company.
Now, there were stories, as we were, when we did the interview, I'd mentioned this because I remember reading about it, there were stories that, the guys who were associated with the guy who got killed, they were like threatening, Snoop and Suge and everything else like that. There was also stories, on the other hand, saying that Death Row was threatening some of the witnesses and so forth. Like how bad was that situation during the trial and so forth?
I remember Nate Dogg and I were at it was after a quote unquote Mary J. Blige concert, where somehow I got stuck with Nate Dogg that night, because it was just us. Sharita went with us, Suge. We went to the concert, but then Suge didn't want to go to the after party. It was the after party. So me and Nate Dogg went to the after party. And it was some guys from whatever gang I went to, Shoreline Village or something, Venice Village, or I forget what gang. And they were starting to pick on Nate Dogg. And I remember Nate Dogg going to his trunk and me, and we had to pull down on some of those guys that was threatening him that night. And luckily, we got out of there unscathed, and, no gunplay other than pointing went down. So we had incidents like that with them whenever we saw them out and about. But the threatening of the witness come from my guys. Two of the guys, and I hopefully talked about it. I haven't read the book yet, but there's a book out by this guy they call Fred Reynolds, Sergeant Reynolds, that Keefe D always referred to, that they was working for me, and David Kenner asked us to find a witness that he needed for the deposition. They had him in hiding, the DA office.
Mm-hmm.
My guys found him.
Okay.
Goes there with, with their badges and stuff, and serve him the subpoena. The DA investigator was furious behind that, especially when he found out it was cops that served him.
Yeah.
And that's why my guys' work permit ultimately got pulled once the chief of police found out, my guys was doing that. It was just the straw in the hat to make him finally pull our work permits. But that's where they get with the threatening the witness comes out, is because they came and served them a subpoena for a deposition for David Kenner.
Got it.
That they had in hiding.
And ultimately, Snoop and Malik ended up being that case.
Correct.
Yeah. And
Great defense attorney.
Yeah. And Malik ended up kind of parting ways with Snoop at that point.
Yeah, I heard his version of why he did it.
But you watched the interview?
Yeah.
Okay.
I watch a lot of your interviews, Vlad.
Thank you.
I don't agree with that. I just think that by that time, Suge had my security guys around, and they knew the liability. And Malik was known for being, I think, in karate or something like that, as I remember them talking about him. But it was mainly because his job was really replaced by retired or off-duty police officers.